And then when I saw and how electric it was and how different, I was like blown away. I was like, whoa. So that's when I became interested in Black Sabbath.
A hospital bed, bright lights, machines beeping somewhere down the hall. This is not how Sharon Osbourne wanted to spend that week in June 2026. Just days earlier, a giant 20-foot statue of her late husband, rock legend Ozzy Osbourne, was being unveiled in France. Fans had traveled from all over the world just to see it. Cameras were ready. This was supposed to be a tribute, a celebration, one more chance for the world to say goodbye to a legend. But Sharon wasn't there. Instead, she was lying in a hospital room, far from the lights, far from the crowd, dealing with something she still hasn't fully explained. When she finally posted online, her words were short, quiet, almost too calm for what fans were already imagining behind the scenes. No one expected this. Not now. Not after everything this family had already survived. Because here's the thing about Sharon Osbourne, she survived cancer. She survived seizures during chemotherapy. She survived decades inside an industry that chews people up and spits them out. And less than a year earlier, she buried the man she loved for over 40 years. So when she suddenly vanished from a moment that meant everything to her, fans started asking the same haunting question. What is really happening to Sharon Osbourne? And the truth, as you're about to see, is far more complicated than anyone expected. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back to where it all began. Sharon wasn't born into fame. She was born into the music business, raised by a tough, controlling manager who ran his artists with an iron fist. As a child, she watched deals get made and careers get destroyed in the same room. She learned early that show business wasn't glamorous behind the curtain, it was war. Then she met Ozzy Osbourne. He was wild. Unpredictable. The frontman of Black Sabbath, a man the world saw as dangerous, chaotic, almost impossible to control. Most people thought his career was already over by the time Sharon stepped in. She didn't just fall in love with him. She rebuilt him. Sharon became his manager, his protector, and eventually his wife. And under her guidance, Ozzy didn't fade away into rock and roll history, he became a global icon. The Prince of Darkness, reborn, thanks largely to the woman standing quietly beside him. But Sharon wasn't content staying in the shadows forever. In the early 2000s, something happened that no one saw coming. A reality show called The Osbournes pulled back the curtain on their chaotic, loving, foul-mouthed family life. Audiences didn't see rock star mystique anymore. They saw a real family, fighting, laughing, falling apart, and somehow staying together through all of it. And viewers could not look away. Sharon became a star in her own right. Talk shows. Talent competitions. Headlines everywhere. Sharp, funny, fearless, brutally honest. Exactly the kind of personality television falls in love with. From the outside, it looked like the perfect story. A girl from a brutal show business childhood, marrying a misunderstood rock legend, building an empire, raising 3 children under the spotlight, becoming beloved in her own right. But behind that image, cracks were already forming. There were health battles fans never fully understood. There were family tensions that ran far deeper than any reality show episode ever showed. There was the slow, painful reality of aging in front of millions, in an industry that turns on women the moment they show even a flicker of vulnerability. And there was Ozzy, his health quietly declining year after year, a slow-motion storm the whole family could feel coming, but could never truly prepare for. The public saw glamour. They saw wit. They saw reality TV chaos. What they didn't see yet, was just how much Sharon was already carrying in silence. The first real crack came years before Ozzy's death, the day Sharon was diagnosed with colon cancer. She found out in a hotel room, far from home, in the middle of filming. One phone call changed everything. By her own account, she collapsed to the floor in shock the moment she heard the results. Cancer doesn't care about fame. It doesn't care about ratings or red carpets. For Sharon, it meant chemotherapy. Surgery, a body that no longer felt like her own. She later admitted she suffered seizures during treatment, calling the experience truly terrifying. Imagine going through that while the entire world is still watching your family on television, still expecting you to be the sharp, fearless woman they tuned in for every single week. She survived. She went into remission. And publicly, she moved forward, almost as if it had never happened at all. But something inside her had already shifted. People close to the family began noticing it. Sharon's relationship with her own body, her own image, became more complicated. She spoke openly, at times, about plastic surgery, about weight struggles, about the brutal pressure to look a certain way on camera, year after year, with no room for error. She wasn't hiding any of it. In many ways, she was painfully honest. But honesty doesn't always stop the world from staring. And the staring was only just getting started. Because what no one fully realized yet was that the hardest chapter of Sharon's life hadn't even begun. Fast forward to more recent years, and a new kind of concern started following Sharon everywhere she went. Photos. Headlines. Side-by-side comparisons of how she used to look. Reports began circulating that Sharon had lost a dramatic amount of weight, with some outlets linking it to weight loss medication. Tabloids described her appearance using harsh, almost cruel language. Sharon herself acknowledged the dramatic change in her body, admitting at times that keeping a healthy balance afterward was not easy. But her body wasn't the only thing changing. Behind closed doors, the family was quietly preparing for something even heavier, the slow decline of Ozzy's health. Ozzy had been open about his Parkinson's diagnosis for years. Fans watched him slow down in interviews, struggle through public appearances, fight just to keep doing the one thing he loved most. And through every bit of it, Sharon stayed right beside him, exactly the way she always had. But here's what almost no one understood at the time. The woman millions saw as fearless, was quietly preparing to lose the one person she had built her entire life around. And the public had no idea just how close that ending really was. Until it actually happened. In July 2025, the news broke that fans had been dreading for years. Ozzy Osbourne was gone. The moment Ozzy died, everything about Sharon's public life changed in an instant. This wasn't a storyline. This wasn't some scripted reality TV moment. This was real grief, raw and unfiltered, playing out in front of millions of strangers who had grown up watching this family on screen. Sharon went from beloved television personality to grieving widow almost overnight. And the world reacted exactly the way it always does, with sympathy, yes, but also with relentless, suffocating attention. Every appearance. Every post. Every flicker of sadness instantly became a headline. Then came a twist almost no one saw coming. Sharon and her son Jack announced plans to preserve Ozzy's legacy using artificial intelligence, an AI version of Ozzy designed to carry his image and presence into the future. The backlash was instant, and brutal. Critics accused the family of exploiting Ozzy's death for profit, calling it nothing more than a cash grab. For a woman already grieving in front of the entire world, that criticism cut far deeper than people realized. Sharon refused to stay silent. She pushed back hard, insisting the project was about protecting her husband's legacy, not exploiting it. She made it clear that no one outside her family truly understood Ozzy, or what he would have wanted for the future. But the controversy piled even more pressure onto a woman who was already exhausted, already grieving, already living under constant public judgment. And then, almost like the universe wasn't finished testing her yet, came the moment that brought everything crashing together. The hospital visit. The very same week a massive statue of Ozzy was being unveiled in France, a tribute Sharon had every reason in the world to want to attend. She was instead lying in a hospital bed, unable to be there. No real explanation. No detailed diagnosis. Just a short, almost guarded message to her fans. And that silence said more than any explanation ever could. So what does all of this actually tell us about what's really happening to Sharon Osbourne? Piece by piece, a picture starts to form. Not one single shocking secret, but years of accumulated weight, finally pressing down all at once. A woman in her 70s. A cancer survivor. Someone who has spent decades inside an industry obsessed with appearance, who has openly battled her own body image and the relentless pressure to keep up with it. Someone who just lost her husband of over 40 years, after watching him decline for years before that. Someone who walked straight out of private grief and directly into public controversy over how to honor him. And now, a hospital visit she still hasn't fully explained. Sharon hasn't confirmed any specific diagnosis. She hasn't said the words fans might quietly be fearing. And that matters, because much of what's circulated about her health beyond her own statements comes from speculation and tabloid reports, not confirmed medical fact. But here's the line worth sitting with before we get to where things stand now. In past interviews about Ozzy, Sharon once recalled him asking her, only half joking, how long he thought he'd be remembered. It's hard not to wonder if she's quietly asking herself a similar question these days. Not about being remembered, but about how much more she has left to carry. The consequences are already visible. Missed public appearances. Increased scrutiny over her health and her appearance. A grieving process playing out under a spotlight she never gets to turn off, even for a moment. For a woman who built her entire career on being the toughest person in the room, this latest chapter feels quieter. More fragile. More human. And whether the full truth comes out soon, or stays hidden a while longer, one thing is impossible to ignore. Sharon Osbourne.